Good afternoon, hello. Apologies for you who are still taking your seat, but we want to obviously get as much of the main man as we can. So yeah, without little further ado, here is Dean Hall, who's going to be showing you DayZ.
So thanks everyone for coming. Always really cool to be at Rezzed. This is the only video game conference where I actually get to play a lot of video games. So last night we were up LANing, so that's pretty awesome. So well, we've come a little bit further than we have from E3. So hopefully today what I'm going to be able to show you is some real progress. So without further ado, I will do some hackery and we will get into our mission. So what I've done is I've taken the build we showed at E3 and I've added in, we've used this is literally the current development build that was finished about an hour ago. So you can see in here at the moment we've got some debug data up in the top right, which is telling you about the hunger and thirst values, which are based on what we've researched for things like how many calories a human would normally use, all that kind of stuff. It's also clued in with sunshine. So if your character's warm and has been in the sun a lot, then you're going to use less calories than if you're in a very cold and you've been walking around and haven't been in the sun, all that kind of stuff. You can see the clothing the character's got on there. So we've started to put a lot of work into all different kinds of clothing that we've got. So if I take his head off there and put on a gas mask, you can see that he now looks like he's been in the zone. Run around a bit. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff that's happening there. Oh, I've lost my Ushanka hat. Where is that? Somewhere back here. There we go. And a lot of people have been asking me whether you can just double click or drag and drop. You can double click as well. So I guess there's a bunch of effort we've put into things like crafting. So you can see here we've got a bag of saline and transfusion assembly. So I can actually drag those onto there and I can create a assembled transfusion kit that can then be used. So I was making some Twitter posts about this as well before. You can find like saline. We're also now creating the ability for you to collect blood from either yourself or from other people, and then if you keep that blood cool and refrigerated, then you'll be able to use it later on. The whole disinfecting thing's quite important as well. So you need to disinfect things, protect yourself from cholera, other pathogens that might not cause you immediate concerns, but if you have a long-term character, can cause you real trouble. There's a couple of cool things that I want to try in here. So what we'll do is we'll run around and I'll show you, this is a new edition. Hopefully this doesn't get too loud for the PA thing. So I made a tweet a while ago about radio stations. So what we really want to do is have some sort of pirate radio stations going on inside DayZ. So we're going to be putting out applications because we think the best place for it to come from is the community. And so we're going to be asking people if they want to set up their own internet radio station. And then when I click play here, I can actually go through and I'll find one. So this is a current Czech internet radio station. I'll go find one that's got some music. Let's see if we can find something a little bit more apocalyptic-y. So there we go, this is classic music. So I can run around with the radio on me. Now people who are running around nearby me can hear some lovely classical music as I go around and shoot zombies, but I kind of want something a little bit more dramatic. So let's try absolute 60s, let's go 70s, let's go 80s. There we go. Welcome to the 80s. Just like being a kid again. So if I put this on the ground, hopefully this will work with these speakers. You can hear it's actually positional. So you can really troll people very well with that, I think. Have some little 80s music cued in and going around. So we'll just leave it on the ground while we go and have a look around. The other thing I showed at E3 for those people who didn't see it. So you notice how now we're trying to get that quick bar to hide down the bottom. So I had to push a key then to bring it up. We really want to remove any immersion blockers and try and have everything being basically provided to you through sound effects or visual cues and all that kind of stuff. So if I open up these maps, apologies for those who've seen the E3 stuff, So I have the two segments there, and I can actually craft those together. If I can remember where they are. There they go. So that's another crafting thing. One we've got here is, so this is a gas cooker, if you can see that, and this is a large gas canister. So I can actually put that on the gas canister, and if I put that down here, you can see the gas canister's inside there, and if I look down on the ground here, you can actually see the gas canister on the ground. If I just position that, so, oh, there we go, let's get it positioned, there we go there. So if I take the gas canister off, you can see the gas canister's removed from the thing. It's just on the left there, and if I put it back on, it's back on there. Same with things like the butane torch. I can put a butane gas canister on it and then light stuff and have a lot of fun with that. So we've also played around a lot with the with improvised weapon. Sorry, where are we? We've got something somewhere. Do I put a flare on the ground? No, I've got a flare here. Spray can and red flare. There we go. So we've also dealt with a lot. So I've got duct tape in here, so I can actually use that to attach this road flare to this can here, and I can actually create an explosive, an improvised explosive. Unfortunately, it's gone off the screen in my backpack, which is really irritating. But yeah, so we've added a bunch of new crafting items to let you create improvised explosives and all that kind of stuff. Oh, there we go. It's appeared up here. So you can see there the improvised grenade. If I look at it, if I put it on the ground and have a look, I got a screenshot of it later on that's a bit closer up, and you can see the spray can's actually been attached to the flare, and you can then throw it and blow people up and that kind of stuff. The 80s music's really setting things off. I quite like that. I should probably get a little bit further away. So one other thing I want to demonstrate here is some of the work we've done with the weapon attachment system. So if I go into my gear screen here, I can actually put the silencer. This is still very work in progress. Notice down here as well, there's a little hand icon saying that that object is in my hands. If I put it away, the little icon goes away. So you can actually put any object that you have in your hands. So if I get rid of that and I put the disinfectant in my hands, you can see, unfortunately we haven't got the animation yet. Whoop. Hold on. That disinfectant's not going to be a lot of good against that zombie. So, ow. Let's not do that. Ow. Yeah, that was really suboptimal. So yeah. So the idea is you can put all these objects in your hands, and I'm just going to run away and hide somewhere. So what I can do is I can actually put that silencer on the weapon, and if you look now, you can see I've got a silencer on the weapon there. So our attachment system's quite flexible. We've got a lot of different attachments planned. All the weapons that we're actually adding to DayZ are new weapons that we're going to be adding in, and we're remaking them all again. You'll probably notice this AK looks quite a bit different, and yeah, we want to make sure. Actually, that 80s music's really starting to put me off now. I could definitely see a lot of trolling going on in the game with that. One other thing I demonstrated at E3 was all the effort we're putting into having loot spawning in quite dynamic locations. So we're really trying to make all the interiors look really good and just be really different. Any of like the doors and that you can't enter, we're going to be putting wood across them so that it's that you can't actually enter in on them. So no, I can't jump over that door apparently. Let me get something out of the back here. What do we got? Transfusion kit. Oh, I don't think she likes me very much. So as usual, we still haven't got the syncing at the moment of the attacks and the animations themselves. I'm gonna run out of ammunition here and it's gonna get really embarrassing. At least I've got away from that damn 80s music. Yeah, so you can see up in the top right, see if the foot damage value is actually increasing. So we actually have different durability values for different footwear, and different material that you actually run on will increase damage on either your feet themselves or the shoes themselves. So if I take my shoes off and run around, my feet will slowly get damaged if I run on things like concrete, or particularly if I sprint. If I run on things like gravel and all that kind of stuff, then yeah, it makes a huge difference to the player. They end up, we're motion capturing it next week with a damaged series of animations that basically you're limping around and you're injured and all that kind of stuff. So to give you a nice look, we were doing it before. I'll actually slow down the time so you can see some of the animations, how we've put a lot of work into trying to make them look look better. This is a new player skeleton. There's still some improvements to happen with that because we haven't removed the old configuration that we have. So there's still a few more improvements that we can actually have with that. At least I've got rid of those zombies. What I might do is, how do I do this? There we go. And if I do a little hop there, you can see the hop is, we're pretty pleased with the hop. It feels a lot, the game feels a lot more fluid than it has been previously. And now my head's stuck in that view. Yeah, so another thing that you end up having to do to protect against disease is use purification tablets. I demonstrated that at E3 as well. And we've also been implementing, unfortunately I was trying to get it working before but I couldn't, was scavenging. So you're going to be able to go around the trees, go to the tree, select an option to harvest wood from it, pick up grass from the ground. All this kind of stuff is going to become useful in terms of crafting. And all those situations where I was putting the disinfectant in my hand, you can actually use that object either to bash people with, or if I put an object on the ground now, like the gas canister, and I actually look at the gas canister, I can actually, because I've got the disinfectant in my hand, I can actually disinfect the item with what's in my hand. Yeah. So we've been expanding the world quite a lot. You can see there, I was talking about the little icon over the hand. Obviously the UI is still placeholder. There's still a lot of work that we're doing on it, but we're pretty happy about the progress we've been making with it. We think it's a lot more fluid than it was previously, and particularly the idea of the way we're doing the backpacks and things like that. I think it's making things a lot easier. The values we've got here are only temporary, so you can see there's 6 slots for the shirt and 6 slots for the pants. That's actually, basically we just haven't finished balancing that yet. And yeah, so all that's going to change. What I'm going to show you inside here is, and I didn't get killed by the door, which is great, is how we're doing now the loot spawns. So you can see that loot now spawns, some of it floating. Basically all around the world, and you actually have to walk around and pick stuff up. And you can either do it by looking at it and picking it up, or if it's very close by, you can actually use the vicinity. But see how that's not close enough. So it really encourages you to look around and find stuff and actually scavenge for stuff. So if you look at hunger there, you can see that at the moment my hunger is negative. So I'm going to eat a can of beans here, and you should see it go even further down. So it means that's how many calories basically below being hungry that I am. If I go in and do some hackery using our development console here, and I will set myself up so that I am really hungry. Oh, actually, I'll do it. I'm a little hungry. How about that? So you can see now I'm starting to get context information in the bottom left there saying you're feeling hungry. If anyone's used Space Station 13 before or played a game like that, it's a very similar kind of prospect, something like an adventure game where it's telling you what's going on. And I think the procedure that we're going to go with from here is, for the initial alpha, pretty much everything will be provided down there. But as we get the chance to and experiment with it, we'll be replacing it with animations that are placed on your player. We'll be replacing it with sound effects and all those kinds of things. A lot of people have been complaining that the sounds are the same from Arma 2. They are. But sounds are something we want to replace once we've nailed the gameplay down. So we've just bought the guy who did, or the guys who did the zombie sounds on the mod. They've got their own little sound studio, so we're bringing them back on board to redo, along with some other people, all the sounds in game. Everything from eating to drinking, all the different weapons. Everything does get redone, but it's something we have to leave until later on. And water is the same kind of thing as well. Drinking and all that kind of stuff. Oh yeah, we've actually got the sound effect in there. So you can see his thirst goes down there. So I'm gonna make him a little bit more hungry. Let's make him really hungry. So eventually, every now and then, you'll see context stuff starts to pop up. And I guess it's important to note, and because I'm trying not to say those 4 things Reddit say that I say too much and they've got a drinking game about, because of the approach that we've taken with the way the server is set up, all the status messages are generated on the server. So that makes a really big impact on hacking. It means that you can't create items on your character can't set its own variables and values. Any of those things basically can't happen. These variables you see in the top right, they don't even exist on your client. The server controls your client completely. If you disconnect from the server, it means that your character is still there for a period of time, which we're hoping will help us with oh, look at that, nice little error popped up. Little zombie couldn't find me. Yeah, so it basically means that we can start dealing with issues like the combat logging and things like that we know were big issues for people from the mod itself. Yeah, so I guess the big question that a lot of people have is when we're actually going to get this out. And the period that we've set a date now, like a window of about a week, and we're not going to say that when that is, because we originally were going to release them in 50,000 key increments, but we've decided to do kind of everything all together. And so we really want to focus on making sure the architecture is good, so that we can get things back. Thought it'd be nice if we finished off with some more 80s music. I better not start dancing, otherwise I'll end up as a kid. So I've brought some little zombies for a dance party. So another thing I wanted to show is some. These are screenshots because we haven't changed the way map mapping works in the inventory screen. I wanted to show some captures. These are from our model viewer, so they don't even include normal map or specular. But of some of the new stuff that we're putting in, we're going for very low poly but very high detail. A lot of work put in them to try and make them look realistic and as good as possible, and low poly so that we get much better performance. And one thing that we have got from a lot of feedback from people is, why doesn't DayZ look like Arma 3? A tremendous amount of effort went into Arma 3, many years worth of work. We didn't want to delay DayZ for that period of time. Arma 3 runs on DirectX 11. We felt it's very important that DayZ has good performance on lower-end PCs as well as high-end PCs, because if it has great frame rate, 60 FPS on higher-end PCs, it means it can then run and support things like Oculus Rift and all those sort of awesome things as well. So we really want to support that. So every item that we've got in game that was in Arma 2 is being redone. We've got a really talented bunch of artists doing things. There's a whole bunch of different ways that you're going to be able to combine them together. So this is an example there of a timed improvised explosive with a road flare, can of spray paint and a kitchen timer, some wires. You see the batteries there that you have to put on your walkie-talkie. Something I couldn't demo here is you can use those little walkie-talkies within a range of, we've got them set at the moment, 1 kilometre to talk to each other. Anywhere from 0 to 1 kilometre, it slowly starts fading out and gets less and less useful. We know people use things like TeamSpeak and that, but it can be really useful for like monitoring people and stuff like that. And this is, yeah, some of the examples of the IV starter kit and stuff like that. So what we're actually working on at the moment, this is saline here that you can use to increase someone's blood pressure if they've lost a lot of blood, but we're also doing the same thing with having a kit that you can actually collect blood from yourself, collect blood from other people, and we're experimenting with the idea of having a blood tests to see, you can get this little cards in real life that you can find out what blood type you are. But a lot of this stuff is still, I guess, experimental. We really feel like we have to get the alpha out and start getting player feedback on where we're at here. Yeah, and there's a whole bunch of tools that you can interact with the world. You can go up to vehicles, remove car battery from the vehicles, that kind of stuff. And that's an example. So a few people probably have this actual map at home. So when you find a map, we want it to make sure, yeah, try and immersion, make sure everything kind of fits together. And that's an example there of the camping stove. These are the actual in-game models, the level of detail on them. Very low poly, but you know, a lot of work has gone into the textures. The guy, I think Joshua Dampman is the guy who's been helping us a lot. He's got a lot of experience with a lot of games and is very fast. We've got him on some pretty cool stuff at the moment, like syringes. You know, hands up those who play that space game that occurs on a large vessel in space, and it's got a number 13 in it. I hope that still counts. There's one person there, they figured it out. So anyone there will remember you can do really cool things with syringes. So we've got syringes coming up, yeah. Any more of these? Yeah, duct tape. Duct tape's going to be really useful. So that's it there. So I thought now, I don't know how much time we've used up, if we could move into the QA. We probably don't have to look at the duct tape. Let's look at a thing.
Lovely image to have in the background. We've got about 10-15 minutes for questions, so if anyone has any questions, please raise your hands. I think we've got the quickest on the drawers down here. If you just hold on a second, we'll get a microphone to you. And if you could stand up when you're asking a question, that'd be amazing. Thanks.
Microphone guy's going to get a lot of exercise.
Well, yeah, I bought the Arma 3 Alpha, and the best feature in it, I thought, was, you know, the Stunts system.
Yep.
Like, is that going to be in DayZ, or are you going to leave it out, consider it's going to be like more civilians going about instead of like trained military people? Because I really like, you know, the stance just above prone. Like, we nicknamed it butt stance, and we, you know, that's like our favorite stance in the game because it's like so low profile. I just wondered if it be in DayZ or not. Yeah.
So I demonstrated at E3. I guess I tried not to demonstrate too much stuff again in case people had seen it. Some of the stance changes at E3. So there's a guy, a really talented guy called Vesper, and he's one of the guys along with a bunch of programmers on the Arma 3 team who's responsible for the stance stuff. Before stances were implemented on Arma 3, he was quite vocal about them and really wanted to see them changed, as well as Pavel, who people will know from the community in Bohemia and Arma. And he did a lot of work on an animation mod and stuff like that. So those guys were really instrumental in the Arma 3 thing. We actually brought Vesper onto the project for a couple of weeks and got him to come up with a stance system that he felt fitted in with DayZ. So I didn't really show it there, but yeah, there is definitely, you can actually, while you're running along, change the way you move. We don't want it to feel as military though. We want it to feel like you're a dude running around, you know, with a nice Russian hat on.
No butt stunts then?
Say again?
No butt stunts?
No, not really. You'll notice if I did it, you can push T and you change your stance a little bit. But yeah, not quite like the Arma 3 one, but the same vein. We've still got a way to go with that before we really achieve what we wanted with it.
All right, nice one.
Cool. Any more questions around this? One at the back just there. Just wait to get the microphone to you.
With the recent addition of the radio stations, will the zombies also be attracted to the radio stations because the players can also hear?
Yep. So zombies are attracted to, you know, sight obviously, sound, so firing your rifle, radio stations, all that kind of stuff. Anything that makes noise, they'll get attracted to, but they might not get very interested in it, or they might destroy it, depending on what the item is. Same with, they can actually track players as well now. I guess it's probably relevant to kind of expand on that in case someone else has got a question about it. Zombies now spawn right at the start of the mission, so it spawns all the zombies across the whole map. And every town has a zone area around it. If you clear all the zombies in that area, they're not going to respawn until human players leave that zone area. But, and this is the big but, there are other zombies that roam around the map, and they can come back into that area and cause you quite an issue. And we're not sure about it because I trialed it, but I'm not sure whether this kind of blows our whole, you know, we don't want to manufacture situations, but where if you don't do anything for a long period of time or you're sitting there, then you're more likely to have a zombie swarm walk through your area. So that's one area that we're looking at there. I hope that answered your question. I kind of wandered a bit.
I think it's quite...
like a zombie.
We've got another question over this end over here.
When it comes down to like weapons and stuff, how many sort of like variants of weapons are we going to get? Because you said you're going back to sort of like civilian and not all like military, so someone running around with like an AS-50 and popping people in the head. So like, what is like the range of like what's the kind of top mark kind of weapons we're talking about?
Well, what we've decided to do, so now that we're really committed to doing a really, I guess, a lot more beefier alpha than we originally intended, particularly because there's a lot of expectation around it. I'd been talking about this centralized loot spawn mechanic, and the more I talked to the CCP guys, the more at E3, the more I realized we really need to do that. So we're looking at actually rolling that out with the alpha. What that means is the game server, so say you set up your own server, it doesn't calculate what loot spawns where. So that means that game server doesn't have access to the spawn values. So that means loot maps can't be made, which we felt helped a great deal for immersion. In addition to that, there are certain items that are controlled centrally by a server economy. So all the game servers across all the world, there can only be X number of this. An example being thermal weapons. We could set it so that there is only one thermal weapon for everyone in the entire Earth. And we want to do that. We want to have super rare items that can only be one of at any one time. If it gets lost or it gets destroyed, then then another one's available to spawn in. And that's how we want to deal with the high-end stuff. We're also, like I said, we're redoing all the weapons, so we're not porting any of the weapons directly across from Arma 3. We're also, at the moment, focusing on weapons that allow some degree of customization. Yeah. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does, man. Thanks.
Sweet.
Awesome.
Cool. We've got one more. We've got a question over here, and then we'll get back to you guys in a second.
Hi. At the moment, in the Arma 2 engine, a player has quite a massive advantage if they turn down all the graphical settings, like even to the point of disabling certain trees and rocks and things. I personally think the game is better when it looks prettier and it's harder to spot people, but if you play like that, you're at a massive disadvantage. So will that be all the same for everybody? Is that hard-coded? Is that set?
At the moment, we're kind of taking a mixed stance to it. So there's been a number of changes made. One of them is, actually, it comes from Take On Helicopters. So what we did is we took the Take On Helicopters engine, and last year we were originally just going to basically tidy that up, plop DayZ into it, and release it. We decided that wasn't worthwhile. So we ended up gutting the Take On Helicopters engine and building up from there. The Take On Helicopters engine was designed for helicopters, not surprisingly, and they played with the way view distance and object distance and grass distance was handled a great deal with that. So we get the benefits from that. We've also been looking at forcing a lot of settings server-side, and that's how object distance and view distance is now forced server-side. There's no way for your client to change that. And there's a bunch of other graphic settings that we can do that with as well. But I think we need to allow a little bit of flexibility for that, because there may be some game communities that want to run servers that are safe for people with lower performance and things like that. So we want to allow some flexibility to server hosters so they can turn different stuff on and off. And I think that controlling it at that game level, the game server level, is better than controlling it at the game level and saying everyone has to run it on ultra or everyone has to run it on medium. Okay, does that answer your question?
Yeah, thank you very much. Cheers.
Thank you very much. We've got a question over here.
I wondered regarding, I know you said about you can do base building systems sort of towards the end of development. How about if you could sort of implement maybe like a key system on certain buildings that were only enterable via like 1 or 2 buildings in the world, maybe like 5, 10 keys in the entire server world, where you could only access them buildings if you had a key, like on Textile Live, Arma City, sort of City Life and stuff on Arma 2 mods. How that might work, or if it's been thought of also.
Yeah, so Jurka, he's a programmer who come up with the inventory system and stuff like that, working with our CEO Marek while I was away. They actually even started looking and talking about lockable containers as well as lockable doors. There are some issues because Arma was never really designed, well, for anything we're doing, but particularly for interior type stuff. So we have to do a lot of work, and you can see this with the zombie AI and all that kind of stuff. There's a lot of work that has to be done to bring it up to speed with what we need it to do. And so, yeah, like an example of a building that we're working on at the moment that we want in for the alpha is a police station that has a lockable armory. Because we think that that would sort of be a bit better, and maybe you have to get like a crowbar and crowbar off the lock, or you know, get some explosive, set up an improvised, you know, explosive and blow it off. So that's definitely on our cards, and it's on the cards for alpha actually. Yeah.
Cool. We've got another question just down there.
I got a couple off Reddit that they posted on last night. So firstly, will zombies have clothes that the players can take from them, and if so, will they be like randomly put across so the zombies look different?
Yeah, so I guess it comes back to one of the points that I made before, which is performance and security are really the two most important things that we've been focusing on. And we've been sacrificing graphics and other things for those two things. One of the problems with the previous zombies is, and I don't want to get too geeky and technical, but they had many different textures and model parts and materials on them. And that was really bad for graphics performance. Well, not bad, but particularly if you had large numbers of them, it was quite problematic. And it was something that the Arma 3 team did really well. They had to, like, it's incredibly customizable like AI and stuff that Arma 3 has. So they had to do a lot of performance optimizations to get that working. With DayZ, we're kind of lucky because we sort of have this one very simple type of antagonist that we can replicate many times. So we've actually made them one texture, one model, one object, which gives us a significant performance increase and allows us to have more zombies. Unfortunately, that means that we can't have it so that you can take something off it because it's all one model. And I think we're going to stick with that just because of the performance that we have.
Next one was, will wounds be visible on the player model? So say like you break your leg, will you physically see that, and also will it show in the gear menu?
Yeah, so we've got a concept that we'll be showing, should be implemented actually next week, for how the damage system's going to work. We also want it so you can examine an item, kind of like, does anyone remember in Tomb Raider, you could like bring up the item and check it out and that. And so you're going to be able to like examine and look at an item in detail. Because one of the biggest architectural changes we made was that in Arma, objects were there were many different kinds of objects. In DayZ, all objects are basically vehicles. So they can all have damage applied to them, they can have their own animations. We can animate a helmet to have a visor that comes down. We can have the helmet have a damaged texture. So as your shoes get damaged, there are progressively two different textures that show up. So you can even see visually on another character how damaged their items are, and even more so when you've got them in your inventory screen. So yeah, I think I answered part of that. Did I answer the whole thing?
I'm not sure. It was...
It was a
I
journey.
can't remember. Don't worry.
It was an exciting journey.
I'll only ask one more so that other people can ask as well. Is about combat logging. What's going to be done to stop that?
Ah, right, yeah.
And also, how are you going to stop people being alerted to someone logging in the area? Like at the moment, loot resets. I know zombies won't be an issue because it spawns at the start of the server, but things like that.
Yeah, I think the first thing I'd say is that this is stuff that we work out in the alpha. Like, there's not enough of us developing it. There's not enough people testing it now to get the metrics we need. We have awesome metrics from DayZ the mod, but this game is so different from the mod in a good way that what we feel is we need to open it right up, get hundreds of thousands of people play it, collect all the data, and then see how we can tidy it up. A lot of that's going to be going on the forums, going on Reddit, getting people's opinions, seeing if those opinions match up with the metrics we have, and then coming up with the system. But we know at least stuff like a combat logout timer. So if you disconnect, you know, your player sits down for 30 seconds before you log out, like kind of WoW styles. And those kind of simple things, they're very easy for us to do now with the, oh, and I nearly said it, Reddit, I nearly said your little drinking game thing. So with the new system we have in place for a multiplayer, yeah.
We have a question over here.
Hello?
Yeah, I wondered if you have a gas canister on the ground and you shoot it, will it explode?
Boom,
Or
yeah.
Generally, can you interact with objects on the ground?
Yeah, so again, that kind of comes back to my point before. Now all the objects in the world effectively act like vehicles in the engine. It's quite a big deal for us, that change, because it just allows, as a designer, we can, for example, have that gas canister have different damage textures. It can have different variables assigned to it, like does the canister contain collar on it, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, so that's one thing that we're doing. Haven't implemented it yet because we're redoing the way the explosions work. But yeah, you shoot a gas canister, it blows up. You shoot a radio, it just breaks. And you don't hear 80s music.
We have a question at the back.
Yeah, when DayZ first came out, the biggest appeal was when you met another player not knowing what to do.
Mm-hmm.
So, you have no idea what the social convention is. Do you shoot them? Do you talk to them? And that's really fun. Now, when I hop into the game occasionally and I find the metagame is you don't interact with other players. If you see them, you either shoot them, or you log off, or you hide. Is anything being changed in sort of the new build to encourage players to interact with each other more, besides killing each other?
Yeah, I mean, I can't say that it's going to work. Like, we're just trying stuff, and I guess that's why we kind of feel pressure now to release the alpha as well, because we want to get feedback. So one example I'll pull is I think the new medical system is I think it's going to have an impact on, and I hope it's going to have an impact on the way players interact. Because there's now, already, we've got hundreds of items in game, and we haven't even released. We're looking at thousands of items. And some of it's like, for example, so we've got the syringes coming in, and you can get antibiotics like amoxicillin, and ciprofloxacin, and doxycycline, all these different kinds of antibiotics that really exist in the real world. And you need to figure out which antibiotic do I have to use to treat, for example, cholera. And you can find cholera vaccines, all this kinds of stuff. And some of those really rare items are controlled centrally by the server, like, for example, a cholera vaccine. I think that's going to be, you find the cholera vaccine, it's like hitting the jackpot, because that's an incredibly heavily tradable item. So there was a TV series I watched while I was at Everest called, a very old one, I had the DVD for ages, called Jericho, and I think people might remember that. There were some cool times in it when they had to go to the trading zone. They didn't want to trade, but they needed to, because they needed to build, like, I don't know, whatever, a Ferris wheel or a wind turbine, something like that. And yeah, so that's what we're hoping to implement, is that because of the increased level of complexity of the medical system, you can do it on your own, but you are going to need to trade. You can be a lone wolf. It's going to be really difficult, but you are going to need to trade. So we're hopeful that this will result in at least neutral interactions, i.e. tense trading between players. And we do have plans for some kind of UI that allows players to transfer their items between each other. Kind of like I hold a can in this hand, and I tell you to put a can of Pepsi in the other hand, and we kind of do this kind of thing. So we want to kind of model that. And yeah, I mean, does that answer your question? Okay.
Cool. We have a question down the front here.
Hi.
Hello.
With the effort you're going to with the thirst and hunger and it being affected by cold, etc. When you said, obviously, you eat something and it fixes your hunger, of course, there's a level where if you say have something like soup, it should theoretically, does it affect both thirst and hunger?
Oh, look, I should have shown that. Thank you. Yeah, so an example being, so now items have resources assigned to them, and they can be many. So an example is the cola, for example, gives you, I think it's 160 calories and then 350 mils of liquid. So you get calories from it and liquid, but you also get sugars. And if you eat too many sugars, you can have problems if you're a long-term survivor. Like if you just went around drinking colas, yeah, you're going to have a bad time. You're going to be like vomiting and, yeah, or like me, really hyperactive.
Cool. I think we've got time for one more question. Yeah, over there.
Hi, you mentioned duct tape earlier. Are you going to be able to sort of haphazardly repair things using duct tape?
Excellent. I wondered what you were going to ask about the duct tape for a second. I think everybody else was as well. So what was that? Repairing stuff. Okay. Repairing stuff. Now I have to think about that. Yeah, so I guess the use we're looking at for the alpha is taping stuff around, like attaching. So for example, you saw the road flare with the with the spray can.
Yes.
The spray can has many uses. Spray can, you can use it to spray your weapon a new color, or you can use it to blow someone up. Yeah, so the repairing is something we want to look at a bit more in depth, because we think there's a few, I say this and this word is going to haunt me. You will know that you are at the point when this word is going to haunt me. There will be several classes that develop of players, but they won't be classes we make, they'll be classes that the players generate through their play style. So for example, I think people will become experts in medical stuff, and people will become experts maybe in repairing stuff, or maybe they'll become experts in both. So we haven't actually nailed down how the repair mechanic's going to work. The main reason being because I want to do that and, like, I guess dovetail in with how we're doing the vehicle repairing system as well. And I think duct tape is going to be a big part of that. For the alpha, we're only really looking at weapon maintenance. So you'll have a weapon cleaning kit, and you'll clean your weapon, and your weapon, yeah, gets clean. So it kind of answers your question, and kind of just like avoids it.
Thanks very much.
I'm afraid that's all we've got time for, but I'd just like to say thanks, obviously, to Dean, thanks to everybody who's spoken at Rezzed, and thank you to